So apparently Adam Kownacki versus Dominic Breazeale is in play for March 7th at the Barclays Center. Now, there had been some talk about Joe Joyce potentially fighting Adam Kownacki, which is a real good fight. Joe Joyce signed a deal with Al Heyman a while ago. I'm not sure if he's still under contract with Heyman or whatever, but he might be. And in which case, I'd rather see Joe Joyce fight Kownacki than Breazeale fight Kownacki, because Joyce is undefeated, as we know, and he had a tough, close fight against Bryant Jennings, who is quite slick and moves, and he's a smaller heavyweight, a faster heavyweight. But with Kownacki, this is a guy who's not going to move around anywhere, you know? So I prefer to see Joyce fight Kownacki. Joyce, just to give you an example, knocked out the very same guy who just decked Efe Ajagba, and he knocked him out with ease. There was no problems in that fight for Joyce at all. So where Ajagba was being touted as the next best thing, the best thing since sliced bread, right? He gets dropped by this guy whose name escapes me at the moment, a cruiserweight really, who moved up in weight, dropped to Ajagba. Joe Joyce dealt with that guy with no problems at all. Okay. So I would personally rather see Joyce step in there. Of course, Breazeale's coming off the devastating knockout loss to Deontay Wilder. He also lost to Anthony Joshua. So yeah, I would personally prefer Joyce. I think he's a bit fresher than Breazeale at this point. Breazeale, even though he hasn't had a particularly long career, he's taken a hell of a lot of punishment. I mean, all the way through his career. Breazeale was in a tough fight against Amir Mansour, where he took a good deal of punishment in that fight. He took a hell of a beating against Anthony Joshua. He took a hell of a lot of punishment in the Israel Gono fight. And he got knocked out in one round by Deontay Wilder. Whereas Joe Joyce, fresh as a daisy. Okay, Joe Joyce, of course, an Olympic finalist, whereas Dominic Breazeale didn't medal at all at the Olympics. So, yeah, for those reasons, I would rather Joe Joyce fight Kownacki. But Breazeale fighting Kownacki is not necessarily bad. Kownacki is probably the leading PBC heavyweight contender at this stage, isn't he? Really and truly, because Luis Ortiz is on his way out. He's been on his way out for a long time, truth be told, but he's definitely on his way out. Who else have you got? Efe Ajagba's nowhere near ready. You got Charles Martin still hanging around, but who's he fighting and what's he doing? Gerald Washington, you know, you just shrug your shoulders at these guys. But with Adam Kownacki, he has some kind of momentum behind him. And of course, he's got a fan base. The Polish people really come out to support their guys in places like New York City, where Adam Kownacki is from, and of course, Chicago, where I think Kownacki has fought before. They've always had a big Polish community in Chicago for many, many years. So yeah, Kownacki has got a lot of momentum, probably the leading PBC contender at the moment. So they're looking to put him in. This is one of the tactics that promoters have been using for many, many years. They're looking to put him in with the former opponents of the top PBC heavyweight at the moment, which is, of course, Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder knocked out Artur Szpilka. They put Kownacki in with him. Deontay Wilder stopped Chris Arreola. They put Kownacki in with him. Deontay Wilder knocked out or stopped Gerald Washington. They put Kownacki in with him. And of course, Deontay Wilder knocked out Dominic Breazeale, and they're looking to put Kownacki in with him as well. So you can see what they're doing with him, and they're trying to, I guess, build Kownacki up to eventually face Wilder in a not too distant future. You know, to try and get the PBC fans to get behind this particular fight and get behind this fighter, get behind the rivalry, you know? And indeed, after a lot of Kownacki fights, the crowd are, you know, calling for Deontay Wilder to fight this man. So it's working, what they're doing at the moment. Boxing is always a lot easier from a fighter's perspective and from a promoter's and a network's perspective when you've got someone that has a fan base. Getting fights done, it doesn't always necessarily guarantee it, but it becomes easier when you've got a fan base. And that's what Kownacki has, which is good to see. So, yeah, whether he fights Breazeale or whether he fights Joe Joyce, I'll be happy either way. I can understand what they're trying to do with putting him in against Breazeale, because then they can compare what he does to what Wilder did against this opponent. But just from a purely boxing perspective, I'd prefer the Joyce fight because I think Joyce has got less wear and tear. So, and both guys are, similar in some ways. Both very big, both very slow. It's just Joyce is a bit more athletic, throws more punches, probably not quite as heavy-handed as Breazeale, but definitely throws more punches, more athletic, and of course he's got more pedigree. So, fresher as well. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. It's Hatman, I'm out.
Hatman merch is now available. We got t-shirts, vests, hoodies, and more. Just click the link below.